kicked out of their homes into sub-zero temperatures.
Political fallout. Anger at ICE forces a partial shutdown of the U.S. government today. New warning for Iran, with U.S. warships now within striking distance after the regime's brutal crackdown. All that, plus moonshot. Extreme cold delays the launch of this
is the same news from yesterday, man.
It's a crew ready to fly, redefining what NASA stands for.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York.
Yeah, it's cold. Okay, got it.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this Saturday. We begin tonight with extreme winter weather, a bomb site. No one was killed, but at least 10 people were taken to area hospitals.
Got it. It's still
to Minnesota, and the latest on the ICE immigration crackdown there. A federal judge today ordered the release of 5-year-old Liam Ramos and his father. The boy's detention, as you may remember, on his way home from preschool last week sparked international outcry. CBS's Ian Lee is in Minneapolis with an update tonight. Ian.
Jerika, this is a colder than average January here in Minnesota. While it's not stopping protesters, it's adding a new danger to migrants living in fear.
ICE out, ICE out.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of the news that we saw yesterday.
Across the Twin Cities,
We won't stop here anymore.
demanding the Minnesota-based company stop allowing immigration enforcement activity on its properties. Outside, in sub-zero temperatures, thousands cycled through the city in honor of Alex Preddy, the second local.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this stuff yesterday. Also, there was this.
Aid to Israel, all the aid that Israel needs. I will continue to fight for it.
This guy is fighting for our money to go to Israel.
Fight for aid to Israel, all the aid that Israel needs. I will continue to fight for it. And we delivered more security assistance to Israel, our ally, under my leadership than ever before. We will keep doing that, everybody. It is so important to give Israel what it needs and to protect itself from the many.
No health care for the U.S.
who want to wipe Israel off the face of the map. We have to do everything to do that. We have to do everything to ensure that the delicate ceasefire secured last year paves the way to lasting peace, where people can live side by side, as many have mentioned, in a two-state solution. The fight for aid to Israel.
Everybody else gets screwed. Everybody else gets fucked. Yeah, that's what's going on here. All right, I'm gonna just go to the morning news. Oh yeah. Actually, you know what they won't talk about? They won't talk about Rafah opening up already.
The Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt has been reopened, but so far nobody's crossed. So what's going on? Firstly, the crossing is a crucial link. It's one of only 2 crossings where people can exit and enter the Gaza Strip. The other one connects Gaza with Israel, and very few people get to go through that. The Rafah crossing has been closed since May 2024. But after plenty of negotiation and speculation, it's now going to reopen as part of the US-led peace plan. But, and there is so often a but, nobody has crossed on this, the first day. We're told that's because checks are being carried out on all the systems, but it's a sign of just how complex and difficult this is going to be. For a start, Israel is imposing huge limitation. Those leaving Gaza will include people who have urgent medical needs. They'll be allowed to have 2 companions with them, up to a maximum of 150 people crossing out of Gaza each day. Coming in the other direction, Israel is expected to allow just 50 people to enter Gaza out of the 42,000 who have fled during the war. Each person crossing in either direction will undergo strict security screening carried out by Israel. There'll be facial recognition checks on the people going into Egypt, while those coming into Gaza will have to go through an extra Israeli checkpoint. So we expect up to 200 people to cross each day, and that's it. So far, no trucks are going to be allowed to go through the Rafah crossing, even though lines of lorries are queuing up there now in the hope of a change of heart. And foreign journalists will also still be banned from entering Gaza, just as they have been throughout the war.
No foreign journalists. 50 people, 200 people a day max. Like, it's is Israel going to kill 2 more Egyptian soldiers again? Are we going to see that happen again? All right, yeah, that definitely was not going to be. I was surprised actually that this was not in the news at all today in the U.S. Nothing about the Rafah border crossing opening. No, instead we get birds and a warning to Iran. I didn't know. Oh, you didn't know that the border, the Rafah border was open, or the crossing was open. It's Grammy night. Yeah, exactly. Isn't basketball like on NBC right now? Like, we should be watching basketball. Why are we talking about this stuff? All right. Anyways, morning news. The 3 big Face the Nation, Meet the Press, and this week. Let's go. Face the Nation. Holy shit. What was that?
I'm Margaret Brennan in Washington, and this week on Face the Nation, anger at ICE persists across the country. Plus, our interview with Venezuelan opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado. After a whirlwind of meetings in Washington,
also, why does this look like ass?
Optimism about our country's future, even as her own future remains
This is
murky.
1080p. This still looks like
she
ass.
defeated in a nationwide election, still holding power.
It's not Chrome, it's their upload.
Of President Trump.
I think she's a very fine person, but I think I have to say at the same time, the current leadership is doing a very good job.
We'll talk to her exclusively. Meanwhile, the debate over ICE immigration enforcement drives more protests across the country and sparks a fight in Congress over funding for the Department of Homeland Security. We'll talk to Republican Congressman Michael McCall. Plus, a bipartisan conversation with 4 of America's mayors on how they're striking a balance between local priorities and federal authority. Finally, President Trump's top economic advisor in his first term, Gary Cohn,
partial government
will join
shutdown.
us.
Yeah.
We'll ask about the president's new pick.
That's it. It cuts off there. Come on, man. Who's running this place?
The Justice Department on Friday released more than 3 million additional pages related to the investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, claiming it has now released all the files required by Congress in a law signed by President Trump in November. But the authors of that law, Democrats and 1 Republican on the House Judiciary Committee, say the administration has not complied and has only released half of the estimated pages, including 200,000 that were redacted or withheld, and on Saturday submitted a formal inquiry to review all of the files. We'll be right back.
That's it. It's 30 seconds of the Epstein files. Oh my god. All right. Yeah. Give me. Give me this week.
Based on the discussions I've had with the governor and the AG, we can start drawing down those resources as far as those looking for public safety threats being released, and do it in the jail with much less people. So the drawdown is going to happen.
Will you pulling back immigration enforcement agents out of Minnesota?
We want to keep our country safe. We'll do whatever we can to keep our country safe.
So not pulling back?
No, not at all.
Mixed signals from the administration this week on Minnesota.
Yeah, what's up with that?
On a roundtable, we're joined by former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, former DNC Chair Donna Brazile, the former Communications Director of
The
RNC,
Powerhouse Roundtable,
and New York Times opinion political correspondent Michelle Cottle. And Chris, let me begin with you. It looked like at the beginning of this week, given what would have been happening in Minnesota after the killing of Alex Preddy, the administration was going to pull back out of Minnesota.
Yeah, the admin managing the PR problem, not the actual problem.
I think what they're trying to do, which is kind of typical, is they're trying to manage the PR problem, not the actual problem.
Yeah.
What really concerns the president here is, in my view, not what happened on the ground in Minnesota.
And then that is the absolute truth. You know, sometimes
and how that's affecting.
Sometimes Chris Christie, he is spitting. Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. They're managing the PR problem, not the actual problem, because the actual problem still continues. It is still happening.
Of his administration. And so never in my life did I think Tom Homan would be seen as a calming influence. But that's who he sends out there to be the calming influence in Minnesota, which tells you two things. One, how out of control Bovino and that group had gotten, that Homan could actually be perceived that way. And secondly, that there's going to be really no change in policy here, because Tom Homan is the architect of this policy.
Well, you say no change in policy, but we just heard Donna Brazil, we just heard Hakeem Jeffries laying out the demands that Democrats have for the kind of changes they expect to see. It's really hard for me to see how they're going to come to an agreement on that in the next 2 weeks.
The only way they can come to an agreement if they can once again get back at the table and the Democrats agree to help the Republicans out. Look, I think the common sense demands that the Democrats are asking for are demands that the American people want. They want to make sure that their cities are safe, their country is safe, but they don't want ICE officials, many of whom are not vetted properly, without adequate training. If they're not working with local and state law enforcement, they cannot achieve the mission that the Trump administration is trying to have.
This has broken through the American people. Immigration had been the president's best issue. Now he's underwater.
People were not expecting this kind of response. I mean, this is a fight that the Democrats want to have in terms of getting some guardrails on ICE. It's one thing to talk about dealing with chaos. The American people don't like chaos. What they saw at the border during the Biden administration
Dems ICE demands body cameras, no masks, and end roving patrols.
Struck them as something that needed to be addressed. But what you're seeing in Minnesota now is mass chaos, and it has the potential to spread. I mean, the one thing that seems to have come out of this so far is that the Trump administration has dialed back their plans for an operation in Maine. So it's not like this is just isolated. People understand that this chaos can spread, and they do not like that.
Susan Collins took credit for that. The Republican Senator from Maine took credit for that pullout. How much pressure is the president under from Republicans in Congress right now? It's actually kind of hard to read.
A great deal. Republicans are spooked. I got an email from a very senior, a committee chair, Republican member of Congress on Monday who's very pro-Trump, who said, I don't know how to talk about this. What should I do? They don't know how to talk about this, and it's not what they want to talk about. And so when you deal with a president who is a chaos agent, Donald Trump's communications is blunt force trauma. He does not do subtlety. This has not been subtle. They're struggling with, how do I talk about this issue? That's not what I want to talk about. They know that they need to get back to the economy and how they're trying to lower prices, and they're not allowed to do it. Trump had a very successful event this week talking about the Trump accounts for children, but we haven't talked about it. We sort of forgotten about it because everything is this issue and now Epstein.
So how do you read Republicans on Capitol Hill dealing with the demands of Democrats to keep the Department of Homeland Security funded?
Look, the biggest problem is how do we keep the government open? And clearly, moving forward 2 weeks from now, we're going to come to a place where we don't have answers, and we're still trying to figure out what the right questions are. And that's where Republicans are struggling.
Which one of the other things you're seeing here, Chris, and I talked about it a bit in my interview with Deputy Attorney General Blanche, is that on this issue, the administration is getting rebuked again and again and again from judges, even Republican judges.
Yeah, look, when you look at the conduct on the ground, that's offensive to not only the American people, but to people's sense of rule of law and what rule of law is supposed to look like. As Michelle said, look, the border situation that the Biden administration allowed to happen is a large part of the reason I think Donald Trump was reelected in 2024. And people are all for the fact that he has secured the border. But law enforcement, I think in many ways is uncomfortable with this at the state level. I see it in my own state as well. And now what you're seeing are judges are saying, no, this is not the way you conduct law enforcement activities. Not that the actions are not legitimate in terms of wanting to remove certain people from the country, but the way they're doing it is something that is repulsive to the American people. And Trump knows, one thing he can read is how people are reacting. And I think that's why you're seeing.
But George, the number of American citizens who are being abducted, the number of American households that are being broken into by ICE officials, the number of Americans who are being stopped. Look, when I see a cop behind me, I've I've always had jitter, and I come from a family with law enforcement. But now when you see cops, you don't know what the hell's going to happen. You don't know what paper you need. You don't know if you can reach down, reach up. You don't know how to protect yourself. And I think many Americans are fearful of what is happening in this country right now. That's why you're seeing people take to the streets. They're taking to the streets, not because they're being paid. I don't know anybody paying anybody to go out in the cold. I mean, God knows you have to pay me a hell of a lot. And George, I did come to see you in the cold. But the point is that people are upset by the way in which the administration is trying to achieve their goals.
Do the Democrats, though, have a danger, Michelle Cottle, that they overplay their hand? You're seeing this debate now, not just about reforming ICE, but abolishing ICE. And immigration did work against the Democrats in the last election.
I hate this mantra. You have a mantra that has been proven to be politically toxic. Just tweak the mantra, even if you want massive overhaul of the ICE agency, which Americans do. This has not been a kind of great campaign to showcase your ICE agents. You don't need to go back to a well that has already kind of sent a signal that you're...
I think you're wrong. I think an overwhelming majority of Americans would vote for candidates that say that they want to abolish ICE.
Soft on crime, lets the administration paint you as soft on crime, and that sort of thing. Just move on from that. So yes, be careful.
Crime is different from what ICE is doing.
Going to stay open?
Oh, I have no idea. And I don't think leadership has any idea at this point.
That's right.
You know, where we were a week ago is not where we are today. 2 weeks from now, as we know, Donald Trump can change the story and what we talk about 10 times between now and then.
No question about that. Let's talk about the Epstein files. Chris, you just heard Blanche says it's over. Hakeem Jeffrey says it's not over. The judges say it's not over. Is it over?
Blanche said that they're done releasing the Epstein files, apparently.
It's never over, George. This thing will never end. And it all goes back to, you know, I was interested to see in the release the original prosecution memo to Alex Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney in Florida when this started in 2007. I was in office at that time. And I remember when the Epstein case got resolved, so many of his fellow U.S. attorneys were like, what the hell?
Even then?
Yes, because when you saw the nature of the allegations, but then also, we didn't even know the depth of it, but then when you saw the way he got sent to state court, and then the sentence in county jail where he was allowed to leave during the day and just sleep there at night, like, we all thought, what the hell is this? And so going all the way back now, nearly 20 years, this has been something that, as law enforcement, we thought was completely absurd and something was going on. We didn't know what at the time. Now we understand it much, much more. And I don't think it's going to end anytime soon because, remember, he said there's 6 million documents. They've released 3.5 million pages of the 6 million pages. So what's the deal with the other 2.5 million pages? Why aren't they being released? And so that argument is going to continue. They should have, George, in my view, 6 months ago, released all 6 million pages at one time. Get it out, get it done, and get it over with. Instead, we are going to continue to have this drip, drip, drip. And there are wealthy men all over this country who are holding their breaths.
Well, you see the first reports that we're getting. This net that Jeffrey Epstein cast is very, very wide.
It is, and I think everyone caught in it deserves to have their records out there. I think the Trump administration has handled this so incredibly badly. They look so sus on this, whether they want it to be over or not. Let's remember, it's in the MAGA corners. They are very upset about this. They think that he has been betraying his pledge to not protect the establishment and the elite. So even among certain corners, you know, we had Marjorie Taylor Greene leave Congress essentially over this fight. So I think that it is going to continue dripping, and all those men out there, I hope they are sweating.
This really was the first issue Republicans in Congress broke from the president.
Without question, and here are the MAGA corners. This summer I was in the town of Lake Ozark, at Lake of the Ozarks, and there's a little store called Teresa's Trump Shop. And I walked in, they have all your garden variety Trump paraphernalia. And I asked the lady, full disclosure, I don't know if it was actually Teresa. I said, do you have any Release the Epstein t-shirts or bumper stickers? And she laughed and said no, and said, what's the holdup? And if your business is invested, your daily life is invested in Donald Trump, and you're asking that question, you have a real problem with the MAGA base, the MAGA corners.
I couldn't quite tell from listening to Hakeem Jeffries where he thinks most of the Democrats are going to vote on whether or not to hold the Clintons in contempt. What's your read of it? Do you think there can actually be a deal before the vote?
Well, I hope so, because look, the Clintons are willing to testify. They're willing to talk. And somehow or another, Mr. Coleman, the chairman of the committee, would like to extract something from the Clintons that he's not asking everyone else. He's dismissed the other subpoenas. George, I think the victims, the survivors deserve to have their stories told. And the Justice Department, with this drip strategy, is only delaying the fact that we're going to see all of these men and women exposed. I'm just horrified by the whole thing. I can't even read this, and I like to read salacious gossip, redacted or unredacted, but this is filth. This is dirty. And after the man was convicted, Mr. Epstein, people still came to him, wanting to go to his island, making phone calls, trying to take the edge off by, this is Mr. Musk, I want to let loose. I'm like, what kind of people are we dealing with? No, the victims deserve to be respected, and I hope that when this conversation happens next week, we can get another round of information out there.
Chris, you saw me ask Attorney General about all these different conflict of interest questions facing the administration right now, including that new report in the Wall Street Journal about a $500 billion investment from the UAE. He dismisses it, says it's nothing, that everybody does it.
Corruption.
They seem to believe they're going to be able to ride this out, will they?
Well, they're going to try to, because that's their overall strategy. Look, as you and I were talking about before, Todd Blanche is a guy who came into this job with a good reputation inside the Justice Department, going back to when he served as an assistant U.S. attorney and as an assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. But you could even see he was uncomfortable with some of the things he had to say. Look, here's their theory. If we commit blatantly unethical and perhaps illegal acts, but we do it completely in the open and let everybody see that we're doing it, there's nothing wrong with it. That's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And the reason they can do it, George, is because Todd Blanche is at the Justice Department. Because his personal attorneys, Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, are there. So you can do this out in the open. You don't have to worry about any ramifications from the Justice Department because it's no longer
How are they going to be able to rule on this money that the president is seeking from the taxpayers, both from the IRS and the Justice Department?
They can't, and no one in the Justice Department is independent any longer. This is going to be like when you had the Saturday Night Massacre under Nixon. You know, out goes Richardson, out goes Ruckelshaus, and there's Robert Bork there as the Solicitor General. But in this administration, even the Solicitor General has had personal ties to Trump. And so that's the problem, is that you don't have an independent Justice Department, George.
That's all we have time for today. Thank you all.
Yeah, that was they're not wrong. A lot of these opinions are not wrong. Jeffries on released Epstein pages. It's not over until complete transparency.
We're joined now by the House Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries. Congressman Jeffries, thank you for joining us right now. So this passed the House. So they passed the bill to keep the government open for another couple of weeks as you try to negotiate reforms on Homeland Security funding. Will the House follow the Senate's lead and vote to keep the government open?
Well, it was a meaningful step in the right direction. Certainly the separation of the 5 bipartisan bills, which in our view promote the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people, need to move forward. And we'll meet later on this afternoon as a caucus to discuss what we believe is the best path. What is clear is that the Department of Homeland Security needs to be dramatically reformed. We share that view, as does Leader Schumer and Senate Democrats, in a variety of different ways. Body cameras should be mandatory. Masks should come off. Judicial warrants should absolutely be required, consistent with the Constitution in our view, before DHS agents or ICE agents are breaking into the homes of the American people or ripping people out of their cars. We need to make sure that there are complete and independent investigations so that when ICE or DHS agents break the law, they are held accountable, not by the Department of Justice, which has no interest in actually conducting a fair investigation in our view, but by state and local authorities. And we need to reiterate that the detention and deportation of American citizens off the table and using taxpayer dollars to brutalize everyday Americans or violently target law-abiding immigrant families needs to be off the table.
That's a list of serious reforms. Will you vote to keep funding Department of Homeland Security for the next 2 weeks as you negotiate those reforms?
Well, we're going to have that conversation later on today and as we return to Washington. But the one thing that we've said publicly is that we need a robust path toward dramatic reform. The administration can't just talk the talk. They need to walk the walk. That should begin today. not in 2 weeks.
What if instead of like all that reform shit,
Can you
we
get
just
these
abolished ICE,
reforms that
man?
you're calling for? No masks, body cameras. You just heard Deputy Attorney General Blanche say that he's very much in support of these administrative warrants, not judicial warrants. Can you get them? How can they be enforced?
The administrative warrants, in our view, aren't worth the paper they are written on. This is an extreme administration unleashing brutality on the American people using taxpayer dollars. So we absolutely, as a condition of moving forward, in my view, I think this is a broadly held perspective shared by Democrats in the House and the Senate, need judicial warrants. More importantly, George, it's a perspective held by the American people, and we're standing on their side.
Even if you get the agreement, with Republicans in the Congress, can you trust the administration to actually enforce the changes?
This is one of the, well, you're absolutely correct that this is an untrustworthy administration. They've been lawless from the very beginning. It's one of the reasons why we need to actually build these strict requirements in terms of behavior into the law so that the courts can hold them accountable and the American people, through their representatives at the state and local level, can hold these individuals accountable. But, you know, from the very beginning of this effort with respect to the Department of Homeland Security, our premise has been simple, that ICE agents should conduct themselves like every other law enforcement agency in the country, as opposed to running around mass thugs, in many instances, unleashing brutality on law-abiding American citizens and violently targeting immigrant families and communities, or even, you know, holding in detention a 5-year-old boy with a superhero backpack. That's not the type of violent felon that the administration promised they were going to target, and the American people.
They said they were going after the worst of the worst, and all they're doing is opening more and more family detention centers.
They've released everything. Just about everything they're going to release. They're going to allow members of Congress to look at these unredacted files as well. So is it over?
It's not over, and it will not be over until there is full and complete transparency as demanded by the survivors, so that there can be full and complete accountability. This is a basic premise here in the country, and there are more than 3 million documents that are being withheld by the Department of Injustice. And so the question that has to be asked, that the American people are asking, is what are they hiding from the American people, and who are they protecting?
They told us what they're hiding.
That was passed by bipartisan majorities in the House and in the Senate, reluctantly on the Republican side, but we brought them over into a more enlightened position. And it was even signed by Donald Trump as president. And so the demand is simple: comply with the law so that we can achieve the type of full transparency and visibility for the American people about all the wrongdoing that occurred, and ensure that there can be accountability so that something like this reign of terror, never happens again.
On the Epstein issue, as you know, the House Oversight Committee voted to hold President Clinton and Secretary of State Clinton in contempt. 9 Democrats voted for that resolution as well. It's probably going to come to the House floor this week. You've said you're against this contempt vote. Why are you against it? How are you going to advise other Democrats to vote?
Well, we'll have a conversation about that when we return. I think our view is that, my view at least, is that the Clintons have engaged in good faith negotiations to try to arrive at an accommodation so that their
Yeah, sorry, just to go back on what he said, find out what they're hiding. They told us what they're hiding.
Also not produced. Any depiction of CSAM or child pornography was obviously excluded. Anything that would jeopardize an active federal investigation. And finally, anything that depicts or contain images of death, physical abuse, or injury, also not produced. Any depiction of CSAM or child pornography was obviously excluded. Anything that would jeopardize an active
physical
federal
abuse,
investigation.
or injury.
And finally,
I mean,
anything
like I
that
said,
depicts
thereby
or contain
confirming those
death,
images exist in
physical
the
abuse,
Epstein
or
files.
injury,
So
also
yeah,
not
every
produced.
crazy conspiracy that
Any
you've ever
depiction
heard is most
CSAM
likely
or child
true.
pornography was obviously excluded.
testimony is offered with the Oversight Committee. And James Comer, the so-called chair of the Oversight Committee, he just needs to take
very
no for an
curious
answer,
indeed.
because it's clear that the Clintons are prepared to appear and to have recorded testimony so that there's a track record that everyone can subsequently evaluate. the notion that they're going to go after Secretary Clinton and Bill Clinton with criminal contempt, in other words, this is sort of a lock her up approach, seems completely inconsistent with the law if the goal is to actually try to get the information as opposed to create a political spectacle.
Do you think it's possible that they can reach an agreement before the House votes on contempt?
Yes, and I'm very hopeful that an agreement will be reached so that the testimony can be adduced and the chips will fall where they may. The Clintons are ready to testify. That's been made clear. The Republicans need to take yes for an answer.
As you saw, I had several questions for Deputy Attorney General Blanche about conflicts of interest, including about this new report in the Wall Street Journal showing that the National Security Advisor to the UAE made an investment in the Trump family company just before the inauguration. As you know, there's been several actions taken with the UAE since then. He says there's no conflict. How do you respond?
Of course there's a conflict. We have three issues of priority as House Democrats that we want to work on behalf of the American people. One, we have to drive down the high cost of living, of course, because America is too expensive. Donald Trump promised to lower costs on day one. Costs haven't gone down. They've gone up. Housing costs out of control, grocery costs out of control, utility bills, electricity bills totally out of control, healthcare costs, of course, childcare costs, all of it out of control. We need to deal with that. We need to fix our broken healthcare system, particularly in the midst of the assault that Republicans have launched. And they're one big ugly...
I mean, your partner's over here saying we're going to just give billions of dollars to Israel, man. What the fuck?
They enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, ripping healthcare away from millions of people. And in that same bill, gave the Department of Homeland Security $191 billion, including $75 billion that went to ICE, so that taxpayer dollars could be used to brutalize the American people. We also need to clean up corruption.
That's all we get.
Wherever it's
all we get is the brutalization of our own society and then watching our money fund Israel.
The most corrupt administration in American history. Why is Donald Trump focused on enriching himself, his family, and his friends, as opposed to focused on driving down the high cost of living? Why is he focused on destroying half the White House, trying to extort $230 billion from the Department of Justice?
Now he's going to go destroy the Kennedy Center.
His wife's documentary, as opposed to fixing our broken healthcare system. Why is he focused on brutalizing everyday Americans by unleashing these masked agents in American communities, as opposed to doing his job? Like, the American people, George, have had enough. The question is, when will Republicans have enough with this failed presidency?
Mr. Jeffries, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
I mean, not bad, but the arguments are a little thin, honestly. All right, here's Todd Blanche. We have nothing to hide.
We're joined now by the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche.
17 fucking minutes.
This morning, as you know, your release on Friday has already received a response from the victims, from Jeffrey Epstein's victims. I want to show the statement right now. It says, survivors are having their names and identifying information exposed while the men who abuse us remain hidden and protected. This is outrageous. The Justice Department cannot claim it is finishing releasing files until every legally required document is released and every abuser and enabler is fully exposed. Will there be more releases?
I mean, look, first of all, we took great pains, as I explained on Friday, to make sure that we protected victims. This was we are talking about a review of 3.5 million pieces of paper that were released on Friday. Every time we hear from a victim or their lawyer that they believe that their name was not properly redacted, we immediately rectify that. And the numbers we're talking about, just so the American people understand, we're talking about 0.001% of all the materials. And we knew this. I said this on Friday, that of course the nature of this type of review was the volume of materials that were reviewed, that there would be times when this happened. And so we're working hard to make sure that we fix that. And I expect that will continue.
Will more documents be released?
We have released, there are a small number of documents, as I said on Friday, that we're waiting for a judge to say we're allowed to release because of a protective order. But This review is over. I mean, we reviewed over 6 million pieces of paper, thousands of videos, tens of thousands of images.
The review is over.
Which is what the statute required us to do. You know, it's interesting. Leadership on the Hill, Congressman Massey, Senator Schumer, are quick to complain. There is no way they have spent any time looking at the materials we produce, because I know the materials we produce. We produce them on Friday. By Saturday, they're already complaining about what we did. And by the way, apparently Massey and others wrote a letter to come and review unredacted materials. I didn't get that letter yet. They leaked it to the press before they actually sent it to me. But yeah, that's absolutely, totally fine. We have nothing to hide. We have nothing to hide. We never did. And our doors are open if they want to come and review any of the materials that we produced.
That was going to be my next question, so thank you for answering it. I do want to move on right now. We have some video right now showing Leon Ramos, that 5-year-old.
It looks like he
boy
realized
who
the
was
pot is
detained
getting
by
warmer.
ICE in
Yeah.
Minnesota, being released today. He's on his way back home to Minnesota after a judge ordered him released, and it was a pretty blistering.
And now release everybody else.
From the judge, Fred Byery, down in the U.S. District Court judge down in Texas. He showed a photo of Liam, included some biblical passages saying Jesus wept, and then went on to say, civics lesson to the government. Administrative warrants issued by the executive branch to itself do not pass probable cause muster. This is called the fox guarding the hen house. The Constitution requires an independent judicial officer. What's your response?
Well, look, that's an active litigation, so I'm limited, but I will say this. The immigration law, the body of immigration law, is much different than our typical criminal process because of the administrative nature of what we do every day. And so to the extent that we need to appeal that judge's decision, I promise we will. But you see thousands and thousands of administrative actions happening every single day in this country, and you just highlighted a single one and not the thousands and thousands of others that happen. And so this is what we're doing is tough. What we're doing is difficult. I mean, we're talking about a situation where millions and millions and millions of undocumented illegal aliens have flooded our country, and we are trying to find them basically one by one. And so, you know, I don't have a comment specifically on what that judge said yesterday, but generally speaking, we are complying with the law every single day.
They are being released across the country as well by judges, and the president said he was going to prioritize those who had criminal records, but about 70%, at least, of those who have been detained don't have criminal records.
Well, just hang on. The fact that they're here illegally is a crime.
The fact that they're here illegally, which could be anybody from, you know, that whole whiteboard that we looked at yesterday. Illegally is a term that they use for people that are not documented, which is everyone.
They are, by their presence being here without status, having come into this country illegally or overstayed illegally, that is a crime. And so we have to be careful. And you're right, there is a schism in the law right now about whether
it's not a crime. It's not. It's not the type of crime that he's trying to make it seem like it is.
Seating, or whether they need to be released on bail. We very strongly believe that they should be held, and there's a bunch of appellate cases. So that's another example of something where a number of district court judges have reached a conclusion that we very much believe is contrary to law, and there will be an appellate court and ultimately probably the Supreme Court that will be asked to interpret that. So we should wait before we withhold judgment until the appellate courts have had their opportunity to weigh in.
I should say, to clarify, the lawyer for Liam Ramos and his father say they were following the legal process for asylum.
I mean, I don't know what that means. They were following legal process. So
they applied for asylum.
What the fuck you mean you don't know what that means? What the hell?
Judge disagreed with us. Excuse me?
They applied for asylum and they were going through the legal process.
Yeah, they applied for asylum.
Well,
that's a legal process.
That is not true. There's a very meaningful dispute about whether they had properly applied for asylum. And again, I cannot get into the specifics of this litigation, but you can read the same briefs I can, and what you just said is
that's what they want. They want everything to be a gray area. Everything is a gray area. So therefore, because you don't have a solid answer, well, then they're illegal and you got to deport them.
Okay, that's what his lawyer says. So I'm sure they'll have a response to that as well. I also want to ask you about the situation in Minnesota. Just this week, Don Lemon was arrested. The journalist Don Lemon was arrested along with another independent journalist. And This was despite the fact that a magistrate judge in an appeals court refused to approve the request. And the chief federal district judge, Patrick Schultz, wrote that there was no evidence that Mr. Lemon engaged in any criminal behavior or conspired to do so. So when do you believe that Mr. Lemon crossed the line from reporting on what was going on to criminal activity?
Conveniently missing from what you just showed, George, is the appellate court and a judge on the appellate court who said just a few days later there was clearly probable cause and it wasn't even a close question. So, and by the way, a grand jury, which is what our system has set up to determine whether probable cause exists, concluded that there was probable cause. That indictment is now public. Everybody in this country can pull it up and read for themselves and see what the grand jury found that Mr. Lemon did. I am not going to comment on the charges specifically because it's not appropriate, but it's interesting that we talk about the First Amendment right. You have a right of freedom of religion, which is just as important as any other right that we have. And George, I don't know if you've watched the videos or read the indictment about what it's alleged that Mr. Lemon did, but if anybody in this country thinks that is, quote, independent journalism, I would like to have a conversation with you. Now, he's obviously has a very good lawyer. He can raise defenses in court to the extent he wants to, but nobody in this country should feel comfortable storming into a church while it's ongoing and disrupting that church service and thinking that we're just going to stand by and let that happen, because there is a statute that does not allow that to happen. It doesn't matter if you happen to be a former CNN journalist. It doesn't matter if you're a rioter. It doesn't matter if you think you're peacefully protesting. You are not allowed to do that.
So you're confident he's going to be convicted and the case won't be dismissed?
I am not going to speak to conviction. That would be completely inappropriate. He was indicted by a grand jury in Minneapolis, and he'll have his day in court like everybody else.
During your confirmation hearings, you made a strong statement against partisan political investigations and prosecutions. I want to show it for our audience.
Partisan lawfare in our justice system wastes taxpayer money, makes communities less safe, and ruins lives. This should never happen in America.
I've got your commitment. There will not even be a whiff of an investigation that appears to have a political motivation to it.
I commit to that.
Since then, as you know, a number of targets.
Oh my God! All right, I just can't stand this guy, dude. I gotta move on. There's somebody I hate even more. Speaker Johnson. I do not. What?
All right, let me ask you about another major story on
Meet
Friday.
the Press,
The Justice Department
NBC.
released what it said were the rest of the Epstein files. A group of Epstein survivors responded with a statement saying it's not enough, saying, quote, Epstein's enablers continue to benefit from secrecy. The Justice Department cannot claim it is finished releasing files until every legally required document is released and every abuser and enabler is fully exposed. As long as the survivors say that not enough is being done, has DOJ finished its work, in your opinion?
We all want every abuser and enabler to be fully exposed. We want justice to be done. It's long overdue. But I do think the Department of Justice is complying with the law. We have now 3.5 million documents. You have over 2,000 videos and I think 180,000 images out there. And as soon as they finish the final release, they give us the full report to Congress, which is required under the law. And then they issue I think in the Federal Register, they have to publish why they've made any redactions. The DOJ will have fully complied with the law and done their job. But think of the mass, the volume of documents that they've had to go through. Remember, they have to go through and make sure that they're protecting the innocent. So some of these young women who were victimized, we do not want them to endure further harm. And so that's been the intention, is to make sure that their names are taken out of that.
President Trump's name.
I mean, the only people's names that have been taken out is like Trump and like his associates.
Including in many of the new documents released this week.
This deeply closeted motherfucker.
Appearing in the Epstein files does not amount to or imply criminal wrongdoing. But do you have any outstanding questions, given that, about the relationship between President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein?
I do not. I mean, I've spoken to the president about this privately and personally many times, and he's spoken very candidly and openly to the public. He says the same things privately that he does publicly. He's never had any concern about that. Remember, President Trump was one of the first people that called Epstein out, and he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, off the property, because he heard of some of the nefarious things he was engaged in.
And he had him killed.
He's never had any concern.
He killed his best friend.
He did at one point call these files a Democratic hoax. But let me ask you about something.
Well, what he said specifically was the hoax of the Democrats trying to turn this into a political issue and use it against him.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top
What
stories
a clip.
on the NBC
I
News
don't
app,
know
or watch live on
how
our
much
YouTube
more I
channel.
can stand of these guys, man. Oh, I gotta fix something on here. Pause videos playing in the background. Yeah. All right, I gotta get back over here. This one, Rokana. All right, here we go.
Let's turn to the partial government shutdown that, of course, started this weekend. Democrats did not get the DHS reforms that you all were asking for. You got 2 weeks to negotiate. There will be, it's expected, a House vote on Monday to reopen the government. Where do you stand right now, Congressman? Will you be voting yes to reopen the government?
I'm not just a no, I'm a firm no, and I'm going to advocate with colleagues that they vote no. Look, Bernie Sanders introduced an amendment, and he said, let's repeal the additional $75 billion that ICE has. That's triple the budget. And that amendment, every single Democrat voted for it. It was not included in the package. I just don't see how in good conscience Democrats can vote for continuing ICE funding when they're killing American citizens, when there's no provision to repeal the tripling of the budget. I hope my colleagues will say no.
But you're prepared to shut down the government for an extended period of time after the longest government shutdown in U.S. history over this, Congressman?
Well, we can bracket the ICE funding. We can open the remaining parts of government. There are a lot of other parts of government that we can fund. The ICE issue should be separated. And certainly, I don't think we can be giving an additional dollar to an agency that is patrolling the streets of not just immigrants, American citizens. I was in Minneapolis. People, third and fourth generation Minnesotans, were talking about tyranny. They were talking about ICE agents going to bookstores. They were talking about ICE agents following them to church. What is going on in our country is a violation of the First, Second, and Fourth Amendments. I just, in good conscience, cannot vote to give more money to ICE agents as they're violating our constitutional rights.
We thank you for watching, and remember.
All right. So another government shutdown looks like what we're going to be going through here. This was
Sunday,
the intro.
Backlash. President Trump's border czar takes charge in Minneapolis.
I'm not here because the federal government has carried its mission out perfectly.
We'll do whatever we can to keep our country safe.
As tensions rise after 2 Americans are killed by federal agents, igniting a fight in Congress and a partial government shutdown.
America does not support ICE terrorizing our communities.
We intend to proceed with impeachment proceedings if Kristi Noem is not fired.
What's next for immigration enforcement? I'll talk to Speaker
I
of
mean,
the
what's
House,
that going to
Mike
do anyway,
Johnson.
man?
Plus, full release. The Justice Department discloses millions of new documents from the Jeffrey Epstein files.
I can assure that we complied with the statute, we complied with the act, we did not protect President Trump.
Did the Justice Department follow the law? I'll talk to Democratic Congressman Rokana of California, who led the bipartisan effort to release the files. And the Ken Burns effect, our Meet the Moment conversation with the award-winning documentary filmmaker Ken Burns on what the battles of the nation's past reveal about America today.
It takes a good story to remind people of the thing that we share in common.
Joining me for insight and analysis are Jonathan Martin of Politico, Adrian Elrod, former senior advisor to the Harris campaign, and Lonnie Chen, a fellow at the Hoover Institution. Welcome to Sunday. It's Meet the Press.
Yeah, I don't know.
From NBC News in Washington, the longest running show.
Anything really came out of the weekend news. I guess there were some quotes. Also, Trump lost. Well, he didn't lose. They lost in Texas. Trump downplays major Democratic win in deep red Texas, saying, "I'm not on the ballot." So they gerrymandered the hell out of Texas, right? And they still lost the seat.
Mr. President,
Texas, a Democrat won the special election in an area that you had won by 17 points. What is your reaction to that?
I don't know. I didn't hear about it. Somebody ran where?
In Texas, a special election for legislative
The 9th state Senate seat.
I'm not involved in that. That's a local Texas race. You mean I won by 17
You did.
and this person lost? Things like that happen.
Does it worry you about the
Well, you don't know whether or not it's transferable. You know, I'm not on the ballot, so you don't know whether or not it's transferable. But, you know, you put the Democrats in, you'll end up with...
It tells you, honestly, I think it tells you how unpopular Republicans are right now.
Crime all over the place. We have no crime anymore. And, I mean, think of it. The country is the lowest crime it's had in 125 years. In recorded history. The year 1900. That's a long time ago. So it's very good. No, I don't know anything about it. I didn't know. I mean, I know there's a race going there. And,
What's he talking about?
It's too bad. What can I say? I have nothing to do with it. Yeah.
I had nothing to do with it. He was blasting. He posted on Truth Social that everybody in Texas needed to go out and vote for his candidate. Like, okay, dude. All right, sure.
As the probe into over 3 million pages of new
Channel
public
4
documents
News
from the Epstein files continues, new revelations emerge and the ripples widen in the halls of power. The concerning image of the man formerly known as Prince Andrew has prompted a government response, urging Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to explain himself as a second woman comes forward.
I think anybody that has got information to share so that we can shed more light on what has gone on should do that, whether it's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor or anybody else.
The Prime Minister called on Prince Andrew to testify in America. But what about the man Keir Starmer made ambassador to the United States in 2025? The new release has more detail over Peter Mandelson's close relationship with the convicted child sex offender. In redacted files are these unexplained and undated pictures of the Labour Lord with his trousers off.
What the
Just
fuck?
weeks ago, Peter Mandelson said he never saw young women with Epstein and called their friendship a mistake. Now documents show how long and lucrative it was. This statement from 2003 shows a payment of $25,000 to Mandelson's partner, mentioning the Lord. In June 2004, there were 2 more payments of $25,000 made from Jeffrey Epstein to a Peter Mandelson. At the time, the Lord was a Labour MP, but the amounts were not declared. Mandelson has said he has no record or recollection of the payments and does not know if they are authentic. Although there is no allegation of criminal wrongdoing against Peter Mandelson, there are questions over his judgment.
My mother would be proud.
And the Prime Minister's for making him US ambassador to influence another man mentioned in the Epstein files. Today, President Trump was dismissive of the release, even claiming vindication.
I didn't see it myself, but I was told by some very important people that not only does it absolve me, it's the opposite of what people were hoping, you know, the radical left.
The US DOJ release is a modern-day who's who. The question is, after this disclosure, what happens to them next?
In July, the Department of Justice said that we had reviewed the files, the quote Epstein files, and there was nothing in there that allowed us to prosecute anybody. We then released over 3.5 million pieces of paper, which the entire world can look at now and see if we got it wrong.
So what now? A second woman is alleging Epstein sent her to have sex with the then Prince Andrew when in her 20s. Those mentioned in the release may not be found guilty of wrongdoing, but those who condemned Epstein out loud but called him a friend in private are now locked into a waiting game of public shame.
Dude, the more we look into this, the grosser it is. It's just horrible. Oh my god! It's the baby eating cabal of human trafficking, cannibals, sacrificial, whatever. Like, it's all fucking like. Oh my god! All right, that's. We need a break here, dude. Trump is now threatening to get rid of mail-in ballots. I'm going to leave a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots, and also, while we're at it, highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines. What the fuck? Which cost 10 times more than accurate, sophisticated watermark paper, which is faster and leaves no doubt at the end of the evening as to who won and who lost the election. We are now the only country in the world that uses mail-in voting. What? All others gave it up because of massive voter fraud encountered. We will begin this effort, which will be strongly opposed by the Democrats because they cheat at levels never seen before, by signing an executive order to help bring honesty to the 2026 midterm elections. Remember, the states are merely an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them for the good of our country to do. With their horrible radical left policies like open borders, men playing in women's sports, transgender and woke for everyone, everything computer. So much more, Democrats are virtually unelectable without using this completely disproven mail-in scam. Elections can never be honest with mail-in ballots / voting, and everybody, in particular the Democrats, knows this. I and the Republican Party will fight like hell to bring honesty, integrity back to our elections. The mail-in ballot hoax using voting machines that are a complete and total disaster must end. Remember, without fair and honest elections and strong and powerful borders, you don't have a semblance of a country. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Oh, fuck, dude. Comes after a yeah. AJ Plus. Give it to me. This journalist in Gaza watched his colleagues get bombed by Israeli forces. I'll probably never forget this image for as long as I live. I saw colleagues getting killed and bombed before our eyes. Oh my God, the civil defense team is gone. I was filming live. I was documenting and talking about the targeting of Hassan. And 7 minutes later, 2 massive explosions erupted in the area designated for journalists. They killed people. The civil defense is gone. They killed people. As soon as they got upstairs to the 4th floor, they were ambushed by Israeli shells. I saw and heard 2 shells while I was live on TV. The entire world saw the shocking image. They were some of the best journalists. We endured together fear, hunger, thirst, moments of horror and bombings. All of a sudden, while you're live on air, you saw them getting killed before your eyes. I lost a part of my soul when we lost those colleagues. Because they were with me every day. Israeli forces have killed nearly 300 journalists since October 2023.
ليعلم العالم مدى فظاعة الجرائم التي ترتكبها قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي ضد قطاع غزة وعمليات التطهير العرقي. يعني أنا أعمل في مهنة الصحافة قرابة 30 عاما. لأول مرة نحن نواجه حرب الإبادة. ربما أخطر هذه التحديات هي الاستهداف المباشر للزملاء الصحفيين. كل المقرات والمباني والأبراج التي كان يوجد بها مقرات الصحافة الفلسطينية منذ الأشهر الأولى للحرب قصفتها قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي، وذلك بهدف إسكات صوت الحقيقة وعدم خروج أي صورة من قطاع غزة. نقول بشكل واضح أن التغطية ستظل مستمرة.
I was also looking for this video from 60 Minutes. I guess we'll see if it comes out later tonight or tomorrow.
Who can you kill and when can you kill
Who
them?
can you kill and when?
Those are questions Republican Senator Rand Paul is asking after the death of 2 people in Minneapolis at the hands of federal immigration officers.
You seem to be saying trust is broken.
Okay, can I play?
Without question.
How can trust be restored? What's at stake?
Public confidence in our rule of law in general.
Yeah, I think we're cooked. 2 federal immigration agents who fired Minneapolis protester Alex Preddy are identified in government records as Border Patrol agent Jesus Ochoa and Customs Border Protection Officer Raimundo Gutierrez. Show them to me. Here we go.
Okay, so we now have photos of Alex Preddy's killers. We have Raimundo Ray Gutierrez and Jesus Jesse Ochoa. So these are photos posted and confirmed by journalist Jacqueline Sweet. Let's get into it. So a little background on each of these people. Jesus Jesse Ochoa is 43 years old. He is a longtime resident of South Texas. He joined Customs and Border Protection in 2018 after he earned a criminal justice degree from the University of Texas Pan American. So ProPublica reported that according to his ex-wife, he dreamt of having a Border Patrol career and was a gun enthusiast who owned a large personal arsenal of about 25 firearms. So then we have Raimundo Gutierrez, and he is a 35-year-old Customs and Border Protection officer. He's from South Texas too and has been with CBP since 2014. He worked on a specialized high-risk assignment on CBP, and it's like a special response team that would be similar to like a SWAT team. So now there's some misinformation out there and questions on why DHS only released the names of the Latino agents involved. Well, DHS didn't release anything. ProPublica did. DHS continues to shield its killer agents, but ProPublica knew it was of public interest. So they released the names on the agents that allegedly killed Alex Preddy. People deserve to know what kind of person would pepper spray someone and then shoot.
Yeah. So they've been named. This is from FD Signifier, Signified B-side, sorry.
Fun fact, leftists do not hate guns. In fact, I personally own at least one. Not only do I own a firearm, but unlike the vast majority of people that are gun owners, I've actually used mine in self-defense. I bought my first home in 2010 and it was burglarized not long after. In fact, it was burglarized multiple times. However, one day I just happened to be at home when a handful of teenagers appeared at the back of my home trying to get in. For legal reasons, I won't get into many details, but let's just say I defended my home and nobody was hurt in the process. However, the experiences in the aftermath were very odd for me. When I told people the story of how I defended my home, I may have gotten a few pats on the back, but there was also this other thing I felt from certain men when I told this story. Envy and in some cases, judgment. Man, if that was me, I'd have blown them away. Wow, I wish I'd have been there. They lucky they never tried me like that, because somebody would have left in a box. Yada, 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 kill people.
Somebody would have left in a box.
A lot of shit like that.
like what you got.
Mind you,
Good
I was
job.
fully aware.
Yo, thank you for the follow.
Breaking into my house. Teenagers from the local high school, little black boys doing some shit they had no business doing. Literally the types of kids I worked with and taught for most of my adult life at that time. Whenever I called police in years prior after getting robbed, they were real lathered up telling me just how I could legally kill these children.
Oops, wrong
and I
emote.
just so happen to be in a position to do so. And these are both the white cops and black cops. I made videos about both of those, by the way. Georgia is a stand your ground state, and if someone has broken into your home, you have the legal right to use deadly force.
How's your day been? It's been all right.
I know this because I heard this over and over again from various people from various different backgrounds telling me with an almost euphoric, erotic desire
how's your day been?
I was to have had the opportunity to defend my home
Watching
with
a little
violence.
FD here.
And in that same breath, often saying how disappointing it was to them that I had not shot someone's 15-year-old son just to keep them from stealing my Xbox. It don't get me wrong.
Yeah, why are you gonna kill somebody just because
times getting robbed? I had
you catch them red-handed? Like that's not. I don't think that's necessary.
An old
honestly,
PlayStation 2 just so I could find an old version of Final Fantasy 12, and I was going to do this broken meme run with the game where you could get this infinite
way too
level up
too
trick
late
where
though.
you could
Yeah,
just leave your game on for a day and let it run with a few setting tweaks. The game would play itself, and you'd come back and you'd be at level 100 or something. And I look forward to that all day, only to come home and have it gone. I'm getting off topic, but the fact that that's what I was thinking about should tell you how I really feel about taking the lives of children. It's not my thing. Maybe there's something wrong with me.
Not gonna lie, I might feel one way or another.
And a few years ago,
that.
I almost told this story on the video where I talked about edgelords, and that was because I was also in that same video talking about the movie Nobody. Some of you all may not remember.
Birds gonna be chirping till like 4:30. Where, dude?
B tier John Wick, which is already a B tier, like straight to video energy action movie. Nobody is an interesting examination of this masculine power
in the
fantasy
UK, bro.
of righteous violence, except it kind of revels in it in a way that I think is more honest. But I'm gonna come back to that in a second. Now, I'm sure
you
there's
are
some
a
of you
blade.
listening
Damn.
to this that thinks that this whole thing, everything I'm saying, sounds insane and is
Yeah,
being
we're
made
watching.
up. But most of you,
we're watching the United States fall apart over here, man. We got people roaming the streets. FD's one of the goats for sure. Yeah, we got ICE roaming the streets. You know, killing people in broad daylight. Yeah. The masculine urge to join a fascist death squad is this video.
My analytics have probably witnessed a conversation like this before because you've probably been in enough male spaces to know that there's always at least one guy that is trying not to come in his pants at the idea of having the right to kill someone. Maybe he owns guns, maybe he doesn't, but he will soon. Maybe he wants to defend his unborn future child or their sister or his wife or girlfriend that he doesn't actually have. There's a lot of these corny, awful pictures of like dads holding guns up to their daughters' prom dates. This is a thing in how boys and men are socialized in this country, and it's probably why Renee Good and tons of other unarmed innocent people have lost their lives in this country. I won't go as far as to say that everyone
there's a
who ends up
mentality
in the military or
definitely
police force or
with
ICE
policing in the United States. Shoot first, ask questions later. We following in lockstep for real. Oh yeah. Hopefully we can get the Greens to a point they can beat our MAGA-esque party by 29. Yeah, I hope so. Because it really does seem like fascism is just going worldwide, and not just like the old school types of fascism, like the United States flavor of MAGA fascism, right? Like that seems to be what's spreading across the world.
has this
As if the Americanization of culture wasn't already bad enough. Maybe this is part of it.
Type of energy, but I will die on the hill that these are usually the types of people that do go into these fields, and they often have the most heinous records.
Steve Bannon's been working overtime to export the playbook. Yes, exactly.
Unarmed people. It doesn't take much effort to look through America's long history of police brutality to find examples literally on tape of these types of guys just looking for an excuse. Some of them outright will say it. So what's at the root?
Yeah, and and people are like, "Oh man, if only we had ICE. If ICE was just better trained, and if ICE behaved more like a reputable police department, maybe they wouldn't be killing people." Have you seen what the police in the United States have been doing? Like, police in the U.S. kill 1,300 people a year. 1,300 people a year. And that was before Trump.
Of this, why is
before
this
and after
in
Trump?
Society? I think the answer is pretty straightforward, and it deals with men's socialized relationship with violence. Boys are raised to have a very paradoxical relationship with violence. On one end, it's instilled in boys very early on that they need to be capable of exerting and absorbing physical violence, and that without said capability, there will never be a real man. Because this is usually where they begin to learn to disregard bodily autonomy, both their own, but also the autonomy of others, because bodily autonomy for young boys is something that you have to earn through your capacity to exert and withstand violence, your capacity to enforce your own autonomy. And in that same breath, you're also expected to test the autonomy of others in order to make sure that they're on the same grade as you are. And this is done through informal body rituals with little boys, whether it be something as benign as flicking someone in the ear, or as heinous as the many stories of bullying or hazing that you might hear in a sports locker room in middle or high school. And that's where the paradox sets in, because you're pretty explicitly told to be capable of violence, but there's also a lot of conflicting rules around it. Don't be a bully unless it serves a greater purpose or someone is asking for it. Don't hit women, but also don't let anyone emasculate you. And if they do, then it's your responsibility to reaffirm your masculinity with violence if necessary, regardless of who does it. Use your strength to protect and support others, but that also means you're in charge. And if people don't respect the fact that you're in charge, they're emasculating you, which means you might have to reaffirm that masculinity through violence. You see how this is a very confusing and ugly thing that a lot of men are doing.
Complicated process.
However, at the end of the day, I want to be clear. Most men, the vast majority, even the worst of us, don't aspire to be violent psychopaths. Most men engage with this complex relationship with violence without actually committing acts of violence on other people for whatever reason. And then some join ICE. Herschel Walker, I remember vividly. If you don't know, Herschel Walker is one of the greatest football players of all time, right? But he said himself that he almost didn't go to college because he wanted to join the army, because he wanted to kill people. This is a real story, and he is not alone in that regard. Some of you don't hear these conversations, but if you go into enough men's spaces with some of these dudes, they will let the mask slip.
Got some goofy news out of the UK. Lightens the mood a little, facing the spread of fascism. We have a contentious by-election in Manchester right now, and the Reform Party went and managed to canvass the wrong constituency. The candidate they're running genuinely ate a book on live TV before. That's right. We had Herschel Walker in the United States. This guy, he would hold up a badge that he got that was a fake badge that was like, it was supposed to be like a guest of honor type of badge thing. And he was like, I'm a certified police officer. Like, no, you're not. No, you are not. And this dude almost won. He almost won. This dude was CTE with brain damage. Like, he almost won against Raphael Warnock.
Himself that he almost didn't go to college because he wanted to join the army, because he wanted to kill people. This is a real story. And he is not a...
But I think, like, you know, in the United States, like, as long as it's a football player or a TV star or like a movie star or whatever, like, we love voting for these guys. We love voting for, like, professional athletes. Doesn't matter if they're dumb as a box of rocks. Like, we'll vote for them, dude. If it's somebody that we've seen before, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like we'll vote for these guys. We'll vote for them all the way into presidency, man. Obviously,
alone in that regard. Some of you don't hear these conversations, but if you go into enough men's spaces with some of these dudes, they will let the mask slip. They will tell you, and that brings me back to the film Nobody. What's interesting about Nobody is that it's one of the few films that's honest.
The green candidate against him is great. He's a local plumber.
His relationship with violence.
Plastered with grassroots links to community. Should be a slam dunk. Yeah, I hope so. Sounds good.
When you look at a lot of the, I call them Sigma male action stars, I made a video about it a little while back, because at the turn of the millennium, you saw a like very distinct change in the way idealized masculinity was presented to Americans. It used to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, you know, Jean-Claude Van Damme. I was about to call him Rob Van Damme. Shout out right? Anyway, alpha male idealized images of masculinity used to be these big, muscular, over-the-top figures. And with like The Matrix and Jason Bourne and eventually on to John Wick now, that changed into more of like an everyman, low-key, neurodivergent coded figure of these people that they weren't necessarily less masculine. It's just that the idealized masculinity was now this stoic, almost like sociopathic figure
as
that
long as
was
they had
able
guns
to effectively operate in this violent world while also staying very subdued and very calm. There were no more.
They're already calling her
no
fake
more
plumber.
Sweat, no more.
Wow.
Or dirt.
Lazy.
It's just badass Sigma Wolf action males. Put the music behind me, right? You know what I'm talking about. However, nobody has some of those features, but it's actually just more honest. It stars a very normal guy who happened to used to be a contract killer or enforcer of some type for the US government. And he has traded that life for the trappings of what normative patriarchal masculinity says is supposed to satisfy a man, namely a wife and the kids and a house in the suburbs. However, the movie puts in a lot of energy to situate those things as unfulfilling and even demeaning. When Bob suffers a home invasion, it's Bob Odenkirk, by the way, and in the movie his name is Hutch. Bob Odenkirk, you know, from Better Call Saul. I never watched that. I probably should watch that. I heard it's pretty good. I need some new shit to watch.
I never watched that either.
New shit I should watch in the comment section. But then his house gets burglarized and he decides, even though he really could have very easily killed these two burglars, to let them go. And everyone, including his own son and his brother-in-law and everybody in his life, demeans him and emasculates him for the fact that he had the chance to kill someone with a righteous kill type situation, and he doesn't. He suffers this silently until he realizes that somebody actually stole something from his youngest daughter, and then he goes on a trek to find that particular thing. Hijinks and intrigue ensues, and it's very much worth the watch if you're an action fan. But what's interesting from the film is how we're made to recognize how much happier Odenkirk's character Hutch is now that he has reignited his relationship with violence. It's almost a love story in that way. It's like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, except Mrs. Smith is violence itself. And again, it's a fun, ridiculous film. I never watched a sequel, but I figure it's just as good. But I found the underlying themes telling about how we imagine and even idealize men. In your John Wicks, it's obvious as a movie watcher that violence is cool. The assassin underworld is cool. But Wick as a character is above the violence itself 95% of the time. He doesn't seem like he's having fun. This is all just reflexive to him. But in Nobody, it's very clear that Odenkirk's character loves what he's doing. He loves that he finally has an excuse to let loose. The violence is more brutal. Instead of sleek nightclubs and Asian corporate buildings, they're fighting in like abandoned factories and car shops and shit and like public buses. And because of this, while Nobody is successful, I wonder if it's less popular because it's more honest about what this violent fantasy really is and really looks like to the people watching it. These folks that join ICE or the military or the police will tell you it's about a code or country or brotherhood or whatever. And I'll give grace to say that to maybe a few of them, that's true.
Words.
But for others of them, it's just power. It's just the excuse to be rabid dogs who probably would have been put down in some other context. That's who we're dealing with right now and who we've been dealing with forever when it comes to the teeth of the state. And I'm not gonna make any prescriptions as to how regular everyday people should deal with these individuals, but I will say this: America is a gun-loving country and leftists love their guns. When it comes to media analysis, though, if you appreciate this discussion about how our views of law enforcement reflect ugly urges of authority and power, you might also like one of the best media analyzers to ever do it and their new video on the macabre story of body cam YouTube, coming from one Lindsay Ellis. In this video, she looks at hordes of body cam footage channels, and her analysis will probably surprise you with exactly what those channels tend to focus on. Spoiler alert, it's not black people. This is not Cops Redux. The thing is, you won't see this video on Lindsay Ellis's main channel. She only posts there every once in a blue moon. If you want to see this video and the dozens or so videos she's made in the past few years, you have to go to my streaming service, Nebula.
Of course, Nebula.
Nebula is the independent streaming service where creators such as myself, Lindsay, and a ton of others can make content.
It's also such an incentivized fantasy. Crazy how we can Figure out free education the moment where you're willing to become a tool for of imperialism. Yeah, I mean, like we like the incentives to join ICE is what, $50,000 a year. But what they don't tell you, it's $10,000 over the course of 5 years, and you have to make a 5-year commitment to ICE. So there are a lot of people that are doing it for the money. And I've heard that before. People that go work for the police departments, or they work dispatch, or they work whatever. They're like, oh well, the money's really good. It's like, okay, yeah, but ACAB. And what these guys do in the streets reflects, and it shows that you support what they're doing. So that's pretty fucked up. Yeah, ACAB means everybody, not just the cops, man. But yeah, here's Al Jazeera's from the Listening Post, the big ICE backlash in relation.
It turns out that facts and evidence do matter, even in Donald Trump's America. We examine the aftermath of that shooting in Minneapolis and the protesters who eventually captured the narrative with their phone cameras. An exodus is underway at TikTok. Users in the
TikTok's cooked too.
The U.S. are fleeing the app after a corporate takeover. Plus, setting the fourth estate alight. We focus on the media in Bangladesh as the country prepares to go to the polls. Americans are still coming to grips with what happened in Minnesota, the killing of another protester there at the hands of Border Control forces. The fallout from Minneapolis to Washington led to an unexpected test of Donald Trump's administration. It has challenged how this White House accounts for its actions, how it responds, shields itself when its authoritarian ways are questioned. The escalation of immigration enforcement also includes a disturbing high-tech angle, the feeding of personal health data on a huge scale to border control agents to help them hunt down immigrants. This past week, the White House's approach took a hit, not because a judge intervened or Congress asserted itself, but because of the evidence captured by people, Minnesotans, protesters, documenting through their phones what had unfolded on their streets.
There was there's a video that Johnny Harris released on his channel in conjunction with one of his friends, and they were talking about what do we have as weapons that we can use against the authorities when they overreach or overstep their boundaries, and really everything that we used to have, like lawsuits, changing the laws and all this other stuff, is out of reach now because of the way ICE behaves, because of the way that they operate, and also the masks that they wear. So one of the last things that we have is recording them independently, recording them ourselves, recording the actions that they're doing. But even that has waned because they are masked and we don't really have a way to identify them. They don't have an actual badge number or an identification in that manner. But just the fact that there was I think there's 8 different angles from the murder of Alex Preddy. That in itself, the just turning the surveillance state around on them has helped, and it's one of the ways that we're able to fight back against.
There was
these
just
guys.
no spinning it.
I've become pretty disenfranchised with Al Jazeera. They're fairly decent on Western countries and Palestine, but their reporting through the rest of West Asia is horrific. Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of and we have much worse in the United States. Oh my God. That's usually what I do here. Is I'll start off with ABC World News Tonight, or NBC that we have here in the United States, and they'll spend the first 10 minutes talking about the fucking weather, man. And this is supposed to be world news, and they're sitting here talking about an ice snowstorm that's happening on the east coast of the United States. This is the type of bullshit that we get. This is like the news that we get. And then they'll mention really quickly that something happened in the UK. And we might blow up Iran. Hey, what do you guys think about that? Actually, you know what? Don't think about it too much, because here's the latest sports scores. That type of shit. The media landscape in general and worldwide is fucked. Yeah, fuck the BBC. Yeah, for sure. Oh, dude, you subbed to Ugopnik? Hell yeah, I subbed to Ugopnik too. 25-month subscriber.
Not that the Trump administration didn't try. The American people have sent a collective message to the Trump White House. The gaslighting.
Yeah, and nobody covered. Speaking of free Palestine, nobody covered that the Rafah crossing's open. Rafah crossing is supposed to be reopened today. Nobody in the Western media, nobody in the United States covered this story at all. I had to go to Sky News or Channel 4 to get anybody talking about it.
We are going to hold them accountable. What will we do?
But I do like the listening post. I like the listening post from Al Jazeera, just because they're constantly talking about Palestine, or really just authoritarian overreach in general. I don't think I'm following you, Gobnit, but I got it gifted after dropping in for a sec. Definitely go back. Yeah, go back and drop a follow.
U.S. citizens killed by immigration enforcement officials over the past 3 weeks. First, Rene Good, then Alex Pretty, were not what the Trump administration said they were, domestic terrorists, and that the spell, the narrative, has been broken.
You would have to be blind, and none of you are, to notice the massive disconnect happening right there.
All in all, virtually nothing that the administration said in the immediate hours after this killing matched up with what the video showed.
They tried to say he was a domestic terrorist. They tried to say, all this shit, that he was there. He brought a gun because he wanted to kill people. It turns out he was a nurse. He was a nurse for veterans. At the Veterans Hospital, at the VA. This guy was basically a fucking saint, and he was practicing his Second Amendment by carrying a handgun, which is, everybody's God-given right in the United States. Right-wingers absolutely love the Second Amendment. Everybody lives and dies by it, and they're like, oh, nobody's gonna take my guns ever. And they killed this guy because he had a gun on him. So it's all the narratives just went completely out the window.
The Trump administration called Alex Pretty a terrorist, an assassin. Stephen Miller smeared him as such. J.D. Vance boosted and retweeted that. This sort of version of language is the state's final attempt at violence. It is to take your sense of reality and to steal it, to pervert it, by taking away Americans' right to know what's being done in their name, their right to facts.
The administration's instinct, which was to slander Mr. Pretty, wasn't sustainable.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun,
going out there to document and record the actions of federal agents. Community members who see what happens, and instead of hiding, they're going out there to document and to provide assistance to people who are being hurt.
People really just was like, this is a bridge too far, where they're smearing these people, calling them domestic terrorists.
Kyle Rittenhouse is their hero, but having a concealed handgun in a holster is domestic terrorism. Exactly. And these same people, the same people that spoke out and called him a domestic terrorist and everything, those are the same people that were raising funds for Kyle Rittenhouse.
When what happened was clearly not that. And these incidents happening so close together, and the administration being so aggressive and demanding that people believe their lies over what you could see with your own eyes, was really what really caused that to kind of break through.
De-escalate a little bit. A breakthrough that forced Donald Trump to talk about a de-escalation in Minnesota, although there has been no significant withdrawal of the enforcement agencies at work there. For the president,
they're still there
now.
Those agencies, those federal agencies, are still there. They're still roving the streets. they're still like pulling people over. They're pulling over United States citizens that are recording them and harassing them and detaining them.
So much into the border control issue would be like admitting defeat. Just 10 years ago, the annual budget for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, or ICE, was less than $6 billion. Last year, Donald Trump pumped another $75 billion into ICE, to be spent over the rest of his term, turning the agency into a sprawling military. Its growing number of officers gets skimpy
and that's what he wants to use it as. He wants to use ICE as his own personal military. We've seen this with them wanting to bring ICE to Italy, to go to like the Olympics,
targeting states like Minnesota that vote Democrat over Republican states with far more immigrants like Florida or Texas. And the organization enjoyed a form of legal immunity that, according to the White House, was absolute.
So we have this, unholy trinity of no training, no oversight, unlimited funding effectively, and just grotesque violence against innocent people with impunity. There is still no prosecution.
It's actual amateur hour.
Acknowledgement that this was a cold-blooded execution, and there has been no retraction of the funding. The solution has to be abolishment and prosecution. Anything short of that is compromising with fascism and extremism, and it's unacceptable.
I had traveled to Minneapolis right after the killing of Renee Nicole Good and joined a rapid response network of community residents to monitor their neighborhoods and watch out for ICE agents. Do you have ICE agents putting their phones right in residents' faces to scan their faces into this mysterious database, recording their license plates? ICE agents following residents to their homes or places of work. The amount of just complete and utter state surveillance in all these cities is shocking and jarring to an unbelievable degree.
Yeah, ICE is behaving in the same way that the IDF does.
From social media or mainstream news outlets that the president has consistently maligned, like CNN and the New York Times.
CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC.
Fox News is a different
I think that's why they changed the name from MSNBC to MS Now.
And we saw circumstantial evidence of that last Sunday when the Murdoch-owned network uncharacteristically reported that internal dissent was on the rise at the Department of Homeland Security because of the narrative the administration was pushing over the Pretty killing. The next day, a Fox anchor suggested heads should roll, one in particular. And before the day was out, one did.
Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino and some, not all, Border Patrol agents are leaving Minneapolis as soon as tomorrow.
One of the things that Fox has always done is talking to Trump through the TV.
I think the president has to handle it mentally like he is on the ballot.
Trump is an avid Fox News viewer, and Fox News host Brian Kilmeade in particular likes to give Trump advice. At Media Matters, we call it the Fox Trump feedback loop, and we've been documenting this since his first administration.
Fox News.
UK government just signed a contract with a company behind the IDF's military AI to create an AI policing system. Yeah. That's where we're going with ICE. Is they're, like he said, that they're scanning the people that are monitoring them, independent citizens that are recording ICE. ICE is going back and recording them, scanning their faces and adding them to a database. So that AI, detection and policing, that's already happening here. Like we're this is just the Gestapo part where they're able to go through and start identifying people and start classifying them as probable bad actors against the government. This is the point that we've reached here in the United States. I guarantee you none of this shit would be possible without Israel. Like without the AI technology and facial recognition and monitoring and all this shit that Israel's done in Gaza, in the West Bank, with checkpoints and all this other stuff. None of this stuff would be possible without them testing it there first.
Outstanding at disinformation and pushing a narrative of disinformation. They probably saw that Greg Bovino's popularity was waning, said, hey, we're losing this narrative. It's time to shift gears and get a new face in there. And then because Trump watches Fox News more than he's actually in the White House, he said, yeah, sure, that's a good idea.
I don't buy for a second that getting rid of any one of these individuals is going to fundamentally change things on the ground, where we've seen entire business districts turned into ghost towns and people afraid to take their children to school. And whether it's Greg Bovino or Tom Homan standing in front of the camera, what we really need is serious policy change.
The Trump administration's reflexive response to the latest shooting smacked of the Orwellian and has Americans quoting that line from the novel 1984. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. Another dystopian element in the mix is Palantir, the tech giant closely connected to Vice President J.D. Vance. It has turned the health data it collects on Americans into a form of mass surveillance, giving it to ICE and other agencies to help them locate and target people.
Palantir is an example of the danger of the fusion of billionaires and politics. And now that they've effectively purchased the White House, there's just a complete, blending of the two. This dystopian, futuristic tech company is open about violating our personal civil rights. And unless we remove their influence from this, that risk to continue transforming us from a republic into an authoritarian regime remains extremely high.
Because the problem for any authoritarian state is when the surveillance gets turned its way, through the cell phone footage that has proven vital in countering the official lies that followed the killing of Alex Pretty and Rene Good before him. For all the talk of Pretty carrying a gun, which is legal in the US, the more menacing weapon he had may have been his phone, his ability to document the crackdown on the streets.
When they know we've seen the truth.
Sometimes satire can be as effective in telling a story as journalism can. And comedian Jon Stewart provided an example of that when explaining what the masked men going after those immigrants saw in Pretty, what they may have really feared.
Because he was brandishing a weapon. A handheld, aluminum, 1080p, 60 FPS weapon of mass illumination. Because there is nothing more dangerous to a regime predicated on lies than witnesses.
Exactly.
Capture the truth.
The ability of people to record the actions of the Trump administration have been so important. It's also a testament to the courage of people who are out there on the streets. They still believe in the promise of our democracy. I hope that through the power of the people, including the documenting and the protesting, we turn the tide and we prevent the Trump administration from further undermining our democracy.
And
crazy
that's
bit of
why they're
Palantir,
so
Laura.
aggressive towards people filming.
The UK head of Palantir is the grandson of UK fascist leader Oswald Mosley. It's funny how these guys are all, they're all related one way or another.
They're scared because they want to lie. Imagine what they're doing behind closed doors where those cameras don't exist. We need that kind of accountability, and the brave people out there with their cameras showing it.
Technology has been used for both evil and horrific ends and beautiful and powerful ends. Phones and technology can separate us, can radicalize us, can make us believe the worst in each other. And yet we've seen how they've incited and inspired revolution, how they've told the truth even when the state insists you believe the opposite. In this moment, we're seeing the best possible ends of what technology can do. And it's helping us tell the truth in the face of a state that insists you see the opposite.
Just days after a consortium of mostly American companies and investors, many of whom have links to President Trump, took over control of TikTok in the U.S., users of the app there say they've encountered all kinds of censorship. Tarek Nafa is here with the details.
Almost immediately.
Oswald Mosley also had his wedding in the late 1930s Berlin, hosted at home of the Goebbels, with Hitler in attendance. Damn. Oh. Are we done posting on TikTok? Yeah, I deleted the app from my phone, man.
Immediately after TikTok's ownership changed hands, users were saying that content
TikTok in the US is just completely fucked, by the way.
Inconvenient to Donald Trump was being censored. Some creators said they were unable to upload videos about ICE and Palestine.
Maybe not for everyone,
and that when they did, those posts received suspiciously low engagement. For a brief period, some users reported that mentioning the name of convicted paedophile and longtime friend of Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, in direct messages triggered content warnings.
Upscroll download numbers about to skyrocket. Yeah, I got on Upscroll too.
Blamed technical glitches on a power outage at a data center. But the allegation that the company was limiting content led California Governor Gavin Newsom to announce an investigation into whether TikTok is violating state law by censoring content critical of President Trump. The new owners have close ties to the president. They include tech giant Oracle, founded by billionaire Larry Ellison, a longtime ally of Trump, as well as Michael Dell of Dell Technologies, also a Trump supporter. The new ownership and the suspicion of new forms of censorship appears to have led to a mass exodus from the app. One market intelligence firm said that average uninstalls grew by 130% this past week compared with the previous 30 days. And as TikTok seems to be falling out of favor with young people, users have flocked to a new rival called Upscrolled, which is backed by the Tech for Palestine incubator. The platform says it has a commitment to no censorship and no shadow bans. The last time we checked, it was the #1 downloaded social networking app on Apple's App Store.
Thanks, Tarek. Bangladesh has been going through a year and a half of political turbulence. In August of 2000.
All right, I don't know if I'm going to go cover Bangladesh. Let me see what they finished with.
Almost all of their foot soldiers wear masks. That costs, and the
free media in the future.
And finally, back to the story in Minnesota. Just one day after federal agents killed Alex Pretty there, the New York Times ran an editorial by one of its most problematic columnists.
Thank you.
Thomas Friedman. In comparing the stories in Minneapolis and Gaza, Friedman chose not to focus on the state-sanctioned violence executed by immigration officers in the U.S. and the police and army in Israel. Instead, he reached for this parallel. Hamas and ICE share one very visible trait that I never thought I'd see in the United States. Almost all of their foot soldiers wear masks. That column went viral, and one of the most on-point breakdowns came courtesy of a U.S.-based journalist.
What the fuck?
Mohildi.
I thought that he would highlight how Israeli security forces, who are regularly and routinely accused of human rights abuses, actually wear masks as well. In fact, the security guards who recently were accused of raping Palestinian prisoners showed up in court while concealing their identities.
This is the same Thomas Friedman who wrote a piece last year titled Understanding the Middle East Through the Animal Kingdom.
What the
where he
fuck?
compared the U.S. to an old lion and Hamas to a trapdoor spider. In 2018, Friedman opined that the Middle East could prosper if it would put its past behind it, and that the U.S. should maintain its role as an honest broker, as surrendering it would only create more crazy, poor Middle Easterners. These are the kinds of editorials that reveal far more about the writer than the topic. Columns that the New York Times, the American newspaper of record, still considers fit to print.
Insane. Insane, man. The IDF wear masks, turn their heads to the back for photos, and use unmanned drones. Yeah, exactly. I think the overuse of drones is something that's not talked about enough. All right, what do I want to cover? Yeah, I kind of wanted to go over like AI. Let me see. OpenAI showed up at my door. Here's why they're targeting people like me.
It is a bit scary to know that the most valuable private company in the world
has your address and has shown up and has questions for you.
Tyler Johnston runs a small AI watchdog. Last summer, he was out when he received an unusual text from his roommate.
There's someone at the door with documents for you.
It was a man with subpoenas from OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT.
They were asking for every former employee that we had spoken to and what we said to them, every congressional office that we spoke to, every potential investor that we spoke to.
Tyler is just one of many advocates suddenly being targeted. As public demands to regulate the AI industry have escalated,
AI could put millions of Americans out of work.
Concerns around safety for kids.
Customers could see their bills increase by $20 each month.
AI clips of fake reports even reaching the Oval Office.
Its biggest players are going to political war.
They started texting my constituents.
Google was involved, Meta was involved, OpenAI was involved.
The AI industry broadly is ready to play hardball.
So I started investigating their tactics. I found an aggressive playbook trying to silence critics, kill legislation, and remake government in their interest. I wanted to know, what are AI companies so afraid of?
They can't have any flies in the ointment, which also means no regulation and no guardrails.
And what does it mean for the rest of us if they get what they want? When OpenAI subpoenaed Tyler, it tucked in an expansive demand that hinted at its real agenda.
They wanted every single document and text message and email that we had that in any way related to OpenAI's restructuring.
Founded as a nonprofit by Elon Musk and Sam Altman, OpenAI had for years been raising billions of dollars from investors through an internal for-profit arm. Then the nonprofit board attempted to fire Sam Altman, and investors panicked that they could lose all their money.
In the wake of that, Sam Altman made some promises to his investors that they would remove the power and control of the nonprofit from the for-profit entity.
But many advocates, including Tyler and Catherine, stood in the way.
We released an open letter. This was an open letter that was asking 7 relatively simple questions, not opposing the restructuring in any way, but asking for more transparency about what their plans were.
But failure to restructure could force OpenAI to give up $20 billion from its investors. The company turned its influence operations into high gear, under the leadership of a man named Chris Lehane.
Whoever ends up winning on that ends up building the AI rails for the world. Like, that is a bit of a zero-sum game.
Lehane began his career in Washington, earning the nickname Master of Disaster, in part for helping the Clintons navigate the Monica Lewinsky scandal. He then pivoted to Silicon Valley, working at Airbnb and with the crypto industry.
I think that OpenAI brought him on because they knew that they needed someone who...
I'm incredibly thankful my engineer friend was rejected from an internship. He applied to BAE Systems when he was like 16. Would have lost him to the imperialist war machine. Yeah. You know, I'm in North Texas, and we have so many fucking just military industrial complex companies in this region that people come and work for. And it's disgusting.
Was willing to be as fierce as possible.
And now we're getting into that AI is, you know, like the U.S. military. I think recently they put in like this like mandatory thing that they want everybody to be using AI, everybody to work with AI. I forgot what they called it, but it was something that Pete Hegseth put out.
Lehane stacked his team with former staffers and confidants of Gavin Newsom.
So AI is now part of the military-industrial complex, as if we didn't already know that with Israel, right?
Jeff Miller, who has deep ties to President Trump. It launched new philanthropic efforts, underscored its economic importance to California, and threatened to leave the state if the restructuring was blocked. With Elon Musk also suing OpenAI for abandoning its mission, the company began to accuse its critics of being his puppets.
They were essentially implying that we were a front for their competitors.
The aggressive tactics paid off. The subpoenas also revealed that this is just the beginning.
I would have been happy to swear to the court that we are not funded by...
That's giving me enough time to radicalize them.
It became clear that
nice.
This was not the only thing that they were trying to find out.
Yeah, gotta get him while they're... Gotta get him early, man.
OpenAI's demands to other groups. documents related to advocacy on AI legislation.
It's very difficult to imagine us figuring out how to comply with 50 different sets of regulation. That will slow us down at a time where I don't think it's in anyone's interest for us to slow down.
For some companies, I think they want a situation like social media.
Rebecca Bauer-Cahan is an assembly member from California leading AI and tech policy.
A law passed in Congress that said that they were not liable for any of the content put onto their platforms. Now they want that for their AI boom, and they don't have it yet in Washington. And so they're going to try to ensure that states don't act as aggressively as I think our constituents want us to.
Over the last year, Bauer-Cahan introduced several AI-related bills to protect California ratepayers from data centers driving up their electricity bills.
They sat next to me and told me I was going to kill the entire AI industry.
To help creators track copyright infringement by AI companies.
Copyright in general is not the right lever to pull.
And to ban unsafe AI products for kids.
We started to see more examples of kids, frankly, dying by suicide as a result
running
of
the
these
baby
chatbots.
leftist industrial complex out here.
Hit with a scathing new lawsuit
Somebody's
alleging
gotta do
it
it.
helped a 16-year-old boy die by suicide.
He would be here, but for ChatGPT.
As we got to the point where it was pretty clear that I had the support to pass it, it was one of the only times I've seen a huge ramp up in lobby dollars to try to kill the bill. The tech industry has set up a lot of what I like to call shadow groups that actually do the lobbying for them.
TechNet, whose members include Meta, OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic. Chamber of Progress, which includes VC firm Andreessen Horowitz, Google, and OpenAI.
I think it's important that you are forthcoming about who funds Chamber of Progress.
Absolutely. I'd like to say first that Chamber of Progress does not accept a vote or veto from any of the technology companies or our partners that we have on our board.
But you didn't answer the question.
I can list all of them if you'd wish.
American Innovators Network, which has Andreessen Horowitz and Y Combinator, the startup accelerator formerly run by Sam Altman.
The argument they were making was that it would end all chatbot access for children, that they couldn't create safe chatbots by design for kids.
Despite the lobbying blitz, the Lead for Kids Act passed both state chambers with supermajorities. Companies didn't stop there. OpenAI even sent a demand for documents to the parents whose teen died by suicide after using ChatGPT, who were pushing for regulation. In the end, Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed the bill. In its stead, Newsom signed a different bill, which the tech lobby had successfully weakened. It only required chatbot developers to have a protocol, not guarantees, for preventing harmful content.
The secondary bill gave
Thanks.
the governor essentially an out.
Oh
so it
my
allowed
God.
him to sign a bill that said he supported child safety without doing something that would sacrifice his relationship to the tech industry.
The American people want to have a say in AI. We don't think that this technology should be decided by 5 oligarchs.
Alex Boris is an assembly member in New York who's running for Congress. Last year, he found himself in a similar fight with the tech lobby over his own AI bill, the RAISE Act.
The point of the RAISE Act was to put legally enforceable safety standards on advanced AI research.
It aimed to address extreme harms like AI being used to create bioweapons, and would only apply to the largest companies. But tech groups pushed back hard.
They started texting my constituents. They started doing Facebook ads and Twitter ads. We also saw more explicit astroturfing. They also had a big effort to plant op-eds.
At one point, Andreessen Horowitz, a key investor in OpenAI, Meta, and dozens of other AI companies, sent him their critiques of the bill.
They sent a bill that was excluding every single company on Earth from the regulation and defining them as a small developer and hoping we wouldn't catch it. They think they're the smartest people in the world and that no one dare regulate them.
Boris's bill passed the state chambers and went to the governor's desk. A few months later, the AI industry launched several new super PACs with hundreds of millions to spend on political races. The funders include Meta, Andreessen Horowitz, and OpenAI co-founder Greg Brockman. One of the first targets, Alex Boris.
Wow.
Boris sponsored the RAISE Act, which creates a chaotic patchwork of state rules that would crush innovation.
The AI super PACs are modeled in part after Fairshake, a crypto industry super PAC that claims credit for taking down its enemies in the 2024 election. Fairshake spent close to $200 million and got what it wanted: a friendly Congress and federal-level pro-crypto legislation. Chris Lehane was Fairshake's top strategist, and the Andreessen Horowitz founders were among its top donors. Its spokesman was Josh Vlasto, who formerly worked for Chuck Schumer and Andrew Cuomo.
So we had a clear rubric. If you were pro-crypto and blockchain, we'd support you and help you win. If you were anti, we would oppose you.
Now the gang is back.
And help you lose, I
running
guess?
the Andreessen Horowitz-funded AI super PAC with input from Lehane.
They announced their opposition really early, and then they put out a bunch of ads saying, I want to regulate AI. I think there's two reasons why they would do this. It's the exact time that the governor is making decisions around the RAISE Act. They are trying to intimidate the governor.
The governor signed Boris's bill, but not before watering down portions of it in line with the tech lobby's demands.
The second reason is to scare any other candidate. The money that's being spent is a message. It is saying that if anyone takes on this issue, they will be facing a wall of cash.
With the super PACs, the endgame of the industry is increasingly clear.
President Trump is planning to stop states from regulating artificial intelligence.
In December, President Trump issued an executive order designed to make states back down from AI legislation by threatening to sue them and cut their federal funding. But the order is a much less powerful rework of a full ban on state legislation that failed to pass Congress twice. Now, AI companies are trying to remake Congress.
Having one federal approach focused on light touch and an even playing field sounds great to me.
You know what? What's going to be the downfall of these guys that are like leading AI or want to circumvent government regulations and everything is more than likely they're using AI to like write documents and give them strategies and advice and whatnot. I think it's going to be their own downfall because it's going to make mistakes. AI makes mistakes. And they're not going to thoroughly vet something, and it's going to be some giant fucking loophole. They're just going to get nailed on.
Anna were the top donors to Trump's super PAC in the second half of 2025.
Feels like their number one priority in DC is really just institutionalize the status quo of, zero regulation, zero accountability. They want the public to bear the cost of any of the fallout.
The chatbot, or really, in my mind, the people programming it, encouraged my son to mutilate himself.
But with the fallout growing, the industry's money may hit its limits.
80% of Americans want there to be some regulation on AI. Some people come to this issue concerned about how data centers are increasing their utility bill. Some people come to the issue because they're worried about their teenagers. Some people come to it because their job is displaced. And if your vote didn't matter, if your say didn't matter, they wouldn't be spending $100 million to drown it out. So this is not hopeless.
Demand that the people who represent you, like me, are representing you and not representing big tech.
If legislators hear that from their constituents, I know that they'll do the right thing because I know that they're feeling it too. I know they see it in their own homes.
Public pressure may already be having an effect. In the face of outrage, OpenAI agreed in January to support a California ballot initiative that would enhance AI protections for children.
California voters, regardless of their party, support stronger AI protections for kids, teens, and families.
While the measure doesn't go as far as the Lead for Kids Act, it's stronger than any existing legislation.
They are the ones who are on the back foot and are trying to make up for it with this money, but the power of the people is always stronger.
Yeah, we're fucking cooked. These guys aren't going to give up, and that's one of the major problems. Yeah, all right, I'm gonna call it here because my computer's pissing me off. It's just so laggy. I got to reboot it and figure out what the hell's going on. I have a million tabs open right now. Like this window right here that you guys can see is just like one window It's one browser session of like 5 that have multiple tabs on each one. So yeah. All right. I'm gonna call it here, guys. I did want to check out this video. How much does AI slop cost the global economy? Probably a good amount, I'm sure. And then Grok, what happened to X? This was all going to be AI related, but yeah, computers get on my nerves, and I need to do something about it. So, all right, I'll call it here, guys. All right, everybody have a good night, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Johnny's in America, Texas at the wheel.
Yeah, that's a good outro. I'm gonna keep this as the outro.
They don't even just pretend. Johnny's in America. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. Johnny wants a brain. Johnny wants to suck on a coke. Johnny wants a woman. Johnny wants to think of a joke. Johnny's in America. Johnny looks up at the stars. Johnny combs his hair and Johnny wants pussy and cars. Johnny's in America.